Welcome to Mark My Words, a show that searches for the fork in the road in life, the place where the turning point in the journey of entrepreneurship and life can be found. Let's meet each other at the crossroads on Mark My Words. When I moved to Florida 3 years ago, there was one thing on my mind that I really wanted to do, and that was try orange juice that was like native to Florida, authentic to Florida. And I couldn't really find anything that really told me that this is a Florida orange juice, this is authentic to Florida. But I did see an orange juice that spoke to me. It was Uncle Mac's organic orange juice, and I especially liked the pulp free
Hmm.
option. And I was like, you know something? I don't know if this is authentic to Florida. I don't know much about Uncle Mac, but
Hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try it out anyway. And I've been drinking it for the past few years, and it actually took until I got notified about and linked up to today's guest, Matt McLean, who is Uncle Matt, and he is the founder of Uncle Matt's, and he is also the chief uncle, in addition to being the founder at Uncle Matt's. And when I put two and two together, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been drinking orange juice that's like authentic to Florida all along, and I didn't even know that. His product is
Hmm.
excellent. I love it. And we're going to have a conversation about how he became Uncle Matt and how he got into this business. It's a real interesting story. Um, I'm going to just say welcome to Mark My Words, Matt. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm awesome, Mark. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast today. And I appreciate your business. Thank you for buying our product. It's not always that I get to be on a podcast where the host is a customer. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I am. As long as I can find your products, I'm gonna be a customer because I love it. So not only do I love the pulp-free orange juice, I also like the immune juice that you have. That is also very good. And here and there, I've been trying to try out the different variations whenever I can. So I am a big fan of yours, and I couldn't wait when I put it together and found out because it just said that you were in the citrus industry, and then I got a little more information. I put it together. I was like, wait a minute. I not only do I know who this is, I'm a fan. I drink their products. So this is something I'm really excited about.
Awesome. Well, me too. Thank you again for the compliments of the business. This should be a fun podcast.
Well, let's start the fun the way I usually do by talking a bit about your path and just going back in the Wayback Machine, because I see that you majored in business administration, minor in economics, finance, uh, and you're native to Florida, correct? You've been here your whole life?
Yeah, seventh generation Floridians. I've lived here my whole life. I'm a fourth generation Florida citrus grower, so I've seen a lot of change.
So, even though when you majored in business and did all this, did you think for a moment that you would be involved in one of the most native things that are associated with Florida?
I actually went to college to get out of that citrus industry. I grew up in it. I was working in the groves every summer, and I learned a lot of great lessons there. Just the value of hard work and leading young men and having the capabilities to do that and earn money to pay for school. But I decided, hey, there's got to be something different and a different path. than just agriculture for me. And not that I wasn't interested in it, I just felt that there would be something else to pursue. And I knew I had an entrepreneurial mind and spirit. So I went into business and had hoped one day I would have my own business doing something successful. I didn't not at the time believe or think that it would be an organic juice company, but I love it, and it's worked out perfect because it took me back to our family roots in agriculture, and it really made the most sense. If I could have drawn up, when I got out of high school and went to college, if I could drawn up a path of like, what would you like to do by getting a degree in business and then starting your business, what would be something you'd really enjoy and have the most impact? It would be this, and it's telling because I've been doing it for almost 26 years, and it doesn't feel like work. I love what I do. It's not a job. It's really a love. It's a love and a passion every day.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you feel all those things about something I consider pretty hard work, then you're definitely the right person to be doing what you're doing. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes the answer to what we want to do with our lives is like right in front of our nose. And
Mhm.
I myself, even though I majored in like television production and was always interested in everything to do with TV, there's other things as I'm getting older and, kind of branching out and trying to think about other possibilities in my life. I'm like, boy, there's some things that are right in front of me that were there the whole time and I just didn't really see it or didn't think of it
Mm.
as a possibility. So it's
Right.
amazing what sometimes is right in
Yep.
front of us is actually the right thing.
Correct. Yeah. And so there it was right in my lap, and it's been a great opportunity and something that has turned into a wonderful business and really a wonderful story.
So go into the story a little bit as I'm kind of browsing over your LinkedIn here. I mean, you talk about coming out of college and you got involved with exporting citrus from Florida to Europe and the Middle East. And I'm
Mhm.
not going to sit here and tell your story for you. I'll let
Sure.
you do that yourself.
Right, right. So, part of being a fourth generation citrus grower, my great granddad came down here. He started citrus, cattle, vegetables, and turpentine. And my grandfather fell in love with the citrus piece and passed it on to my dad, and then, of course, passed it on to myself. When I got out of college and I had the opportunity to start this import export business, it was because my father, he had a citrus consultant. He was a citrus consultant, and he had a grower who was German. And this guy owned about 100 acres of groves down in Wauchula. And he said, "Hey, I actually want to find somebody to help me. I have a lot of friends over there that are bottlers in Germany, and they want Florida orange juice and Florida grapefruit juice." And I was fresh out of college, and I got introduced to this gentleman, and I said, "Hey, I can go around the state and talk to the 35 juice plants, and we can find the best quality, and I can help you buy it and ship it over to Europe and to those customers. So if you can do sales, I can do the purchasing piece." And together we formed a little partnership, and we made commissions on everything that we sold. And so that was a lot of fun. I got to, at an early age, travel over to Europe and visit customers in Germany and France and the UK. And eventually we had some customers over in the Middle East, over in UAE. At that time is when I really learned how to make good tasting juice on blending the right varieties, picking it at the right time, the bricks, the acid, the ratio, the oil levels, the varieties, all of those things you had to get right to have a good, consistently great tasting profile in juice. And so that really led perfectly into what I'm doing today, because it was, my crash course over 5 years on what's, a really tasty juice. And one of those customers of his in Southern Germany, he asked for organic. And this was probably 96, 97. I came back and had the entrepreneur aha moment of, hey, there's nothing organic in the marketplace here in the US. There was no Tropicana or Simply that was organic. And so that was the moment and the impetus that I needed, that hey, this is something that could happen. But I had no idea. I had no idea about how to do. I could put it in a 55-gallon steel drum, freeze it, and send it across in a ship all the way to Europe or the Middle East, but I didn't know anything about how to just get it in the supermarket right next to me. So it took me a couple of years to figure it out, to get up enough nerve, and to really say, hey, I want to do this and figure out a name and a co-packer and find enough business, all of those things until I finally launched it in June of 1999 with just one little item, pulp-free orange juice, which is still today our top selling item. But we have over 30 items totally now. So
Well, as I stated, I love the pulp-free option. That's definitely my favorite. So you said like it took you a couple years to really like build it up and actually get up the nerve to say, I want this as a full-fledged business. Uh,
mm,
what what was like some of the obstacles that you had, like just maybe whether they were actual obstacles or just internal obstacles as far as getting to the point where you said, I'm going to go and do this? Because it sounded like you were on to something pretty early on.
yeah. I mean, right out of the gate, the obstacle is just kind of, well, how do you do it? If you don't have the experience in it, can you find somebody that does, and can they help you navigate it? Because there's so many wrong moves you can make in the beginning. One, you got to, okay, what is my concept? Is it, a line of items? Do I have two or three items I'm launching? Is it just one item? Is there enough supply for that item? Is there enough demand, more importantly, for that item? And then can I find somebody to pack it for me? Because most people aren't going to start in self manufacture. So that's what happened. I went through all of those steps and I finally got to the end. I had a co-packer that was local. He was a friend of the family and he was funny because he did everything he could to convince me not to do this. And he was right. It actually was very good advice. Like, hey, he kept telling me, you don't know what you're doing. You have no idea. You need CPG experience. You're going to lose a lot of money, and this is going to, really be the end of you and your entrepreneurial spirit. And the odds were right. I mean, he was giving me good advice. Like all those things typically happen to new businesses. Most of them go out of business in the first year because they don't have enough, fill in the blank, either margin, they don't have enough sales, they don't have the right supply, they don't have enough people to do the job, whatever it is. And I was fortunate enough that I had my other import export business, so it could pay the bills. And so, and I was single, I was young, it was just myself. So if I went completely belly up, all I could be responsible for is myself, and I was okay taking that risk. If I had a wife and kids, and we were betting the house and all of their inheritance or whatever, it would have been a lot different decision. I probably would have said no because of the unknown, just too much risk to do. But the right timing, I found enough local buyers between Gooding Supermarket, Chamberlain's Health Food Stores, and a nice distributor that was primarily on produce, but hit all the mom and pop health and wellness stores. And so between those accounts, that was enough when I first produced 600 cases to get through that product before it went bad. So it was just enough, just in time, but it was perishable and it was a really tough business to manage in the beginning. But I loved it. I loved every bit about it. And it just was if you like challenges, being self employed is the ultimate challenge.
I can't imagine that, especially the type of business that you decide to go into. I can't imagine that it's easy. It sounds easy when you see somebody has the success like 20
Mm.
years later, like you've had. It's like, oh, it's just magic. That must have been easy. But when you really break it down and you actually, like, I'm listening to your story now, and I already know, just I have relatives. I guess my grandma lived on the panhandle of Florida, and I didn't
Yeah.
spend too much time there, but she and a couple other relatives had a farm, and just a couple days of helping out with farming a little bit. I'm not even talking about anything close to what you're doing, just, maybe helping with shelling peas or whatever. It's hard work. It's a lot of
Yeah.
hard work. And that little bit, that tiny bit of experience was enough for me to say the idea of being on a farm and doing all that sounds really cool. You're away from the world a little bit, but it's very hard work.
Yes, absolutely. If you do not have grit and determination as part of your makeup, don't go into being self-employed. You won't make it because there's very, very few companies launch a product and it sells itself and it's wildly profitable and you don't need to, work very hard. That's basically winning the lottery. So, so be prepared. You're going to roll up your sleeves. You're going to emotionally and physically be challenged.
Well, speaking of being emotionally challenged, I mean, okay, maybe not. It's a little bit of a joke, but coming up with a name for your business can be kind of difficult. And I got the name of this podcast completely by accident. It actually didn't come from me at all. I was doing a lot of blogging like 6, 7, 8 years ago. I was a
Mm.
part of a community of bloggers, and the blog was called like something really stupid. It was like Mark's World. It was just not really that good of a name. But I was like, I don't know what else to call it. There was one blogger who was like, hey, you should have called your blog Mark My Words. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like that's a real catchy name. That's great.
Makes perfect sense.
And when I decided to go into podcasting, I was like, mark my words, that is the name, even though it might not be the absolute perfect fit for
Right.
the entrepreneurial world. It's like
Right.
it's a great catchy name, and
It's awesome.
I'm running it. I appreciate that. And I know I listened to some of your other appearances, so I've heard the Uncle Matt story a little bit, but tell the story about how your business became branded as Uncle Matt's.
Yeah, great. So, when you first start off, what are you going to call it? It's a big, big deal, right? Because you typically don't change your name after you get out there for a while. So, there was a lot of pressure just around what do I do here and what's the right path? I was not good at naming. I came up with Healthy Farms was my generic best name that I came up with, and that would have been terrible. It sounds like, private label, something boring that you would forget all about. And it actually, the name Uncle Matt's came to my sister-in-law in a dream, and she felt God told her to call it Uncle Matt's. She is very spiritual, and I thought, how that's interesting. She goes, yeah, I just felt that it should be called Uncle Matt's because you're farming organic, and that's good for the next generation. And I was like, wow, that's exactly how I feel. That's kind of the passion that's got me to take this risk. Like I really believed in organic farming and how it can protect the planet and environment, and less pesticides just made more sense than traditional conventional methods. And at the time, I had one niece and one nephew, and it would be to protect them, and for the next generation, it would be a better generation than where I was at. And so Uncle Matt's made a whole lot of sense. It was hokey. It's still kind of hokey, but hokey kind of also is memorable. Like, hey, it's a little different, it's a little quirky, it's a little hokey. It's that Uncle Matt's. Okay, yeah, all right. And plus, everybody named Matt in the market loves us because they're typically uncles or going to be uncles, and so all of their family members like this is your product.
I
So that's
love
how
the
the Uncle
name.
Matt's name came about.
I think it's a terrific name, and you know, it doesn't always have to make perfect sense. I mean,
Mm.
is I don't believe were you an uncle at the time that you named it Uncle Max?
Yeah, so I had one niece and one nephew. Eventually, I wound up with 10 nieces and nephews from my two very productive siblings. I have two kids, two teenage daughters, but so between it, I have 12 that I really care about between nieces and nephews and my kids, and that's what motivates me still after 26 years is that we're farming for the next generation. I'm creating healthier, better for you beverages that are either low sugar or they're functional with functional ingredients like probiotics that are good for your gut or turmeric that is good for inflammation or just things that have a lot of antioxidants, powerful stuff like elderberry, acerola cherries. Those are what Uncle Matt's is about.
So you mentioned 26 years. It's been uh, quite a few years now being in business. I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes in as far as just running a business. What's different from back then compared to now as far as like being an entrepreneur, running a
Mm.
business? What has changed for you?
Yeah, yeah. We've gone from one employee to we're about 75 now, and we're doing manufacturing. Where before I would outsource it all. So now we have to, different metrics around manufacturing with throughput and efficiencies and yields versus not having that in the past. And then just managing a bigger staff. So how do you keep everybody, on mission? How do you keep them goal oriented? How do you keep them engaged and act like owners and not just employees? And so leadership skills along the way, learning how to be a better leader and motivating and inspiring people to do their best. And for us, we have a saying, consistently great. And so everything we do, we want to make sure it's consistently great because the consumer demands it. So when you open our bottle of Uncle Matt's, you go, wow, that was really good. And every bottle, we strive to be consistently great. And so that's how I've kind of evolved over my 26 years of just the one person that literally did all the sales, did all the operations planning, did the invoicing, answered the phone, to now where it's a lot more delegated, but everybody still has the same metrics and goals that we create annually to try and be consistently great.
Was it hard to let go and start delegating more work and responsibility to others?
Yeah, I think that every entrepreneur struggles with that, right? I mean, it's a classic. Every entrepreneur, if you really love what you do and you're good at it, you want to do it all, right? And it's your baby, and you want it done this way and every single thing. And so it kind of naturally creates a control freak as a self-employed entrepreneur because in the beginning you start having to do everything. Rarely do people, come with a full staff and you can just start and hit the ground running. You have to do it all. And so as you mature as a leader, as you mature as a company, one of the biggest things you'll do is take that step to learn how to delegate effectively. And so you hire smart people, you hire great people that believe in your mission, that have that skill set, and you let them do their job. You give them the guardrails and you give them parameters of what to do and the goals and their KPI metrics, and that helps guide them. But then let them do their job, so you get back to strategically doing what you need to be doing to drive the business, to grow the company, and to be that right leader.
So one thing that I struggle with that I'm at least thinking a little bit more about outsourcing some
Mm-hmm.
things, but I'm like, not only is this like my business and I feel a lot of sense of like ownership on it, but I've always been very like resourceful. So I'm very used to just doing everything anyway, in addition to this is my business and I really want it to do well and to be well and be the best it can
Mm-hmm.
be. So
Right.
yeah, I can really just understand the struggle of like, okay, did you know when it was time? Did you have a moment where I was like, okay, I just cannot like do this all on my own anymore. I have to go
Yeah, I
ahead.
mean, when you get to the point where you have unsatisfied customers, I mean that's it. All right, all right. I mean, you just can't keep up with satisfying the customers or your product being consistently great, right?
Yeah.
When you feel that happening, you need to start delegating because you're about to lose business and market share.
So speaking of being consistently great, which you've come up with a lot of like different variations on your
Mhm.
product, and they've been out there, they've been successful. Have there been any ideas that maybe didn't work that you were like, you thought that it tasted good, you thought it was going to go over well, and it
Yep.
just didn't give you that return?
Oh, sure. I have a in the back there, I have a boneyard of products that never made it. You know, I thought they were delicious. I was either ahead of the curve on the trend and stuff coming, and consumer didn't really get it, didn't register with them, or it didn't taste good enough, or it wasn't compelling on price. It was overpriced. I mean, there's a variety of mistakes that I've made. Um, yeah, I mean that's normal. You're gonna have some winners, and you're definitely gonna strike out and have some losers. They're not all gonna be winners.
So what do you do when you don't have a winner? Not that I want to spend
Yeah,
my whole time
yeah.
emphasizing like how do you try to retool it? Do you scrap it? What happens?
So we will discontinue an item because it just doesn't have enough velocity on the shelf. Mostly the retailer will do it for you, right? So you'll have a couple key accounts and they'll start discontinuing the product because it just doesn't meet their metrics. It's not meeting either the dollar turn or the velocity unit turn. And so it's there's other things that they could put in that real estate that would do better. So typically, you start seeing that domino hit first of, hey, these things are getting discontinued. But we're big enough now where we can purchase data, and so we're able to see and we track those metrics with, at shelf dollar sales and velocity per unit, and just know how it's measuring in the category. So you kind of know if something is on the chopping blocks, or it's going to do well and it keeps growing. And hey, we really have something here.
So one thing that I see that's a part of your story is that you actually sold the company for a while and then you bought it
Mhm.
back. Do
We did.
you uh, do you want to tell that part of the story?
Yeah, that's a crazy story. We started in June of '99, and by 2017, we had decided it was a good time to sell the business. We had a variety of problems and issues. We had up until 2015, we grew everything for Uncle Matt. So my dad and brother were the farmers, they were the agronomists. We had 35 growers that we had transitioned to organic. We had 600 acres that we owned ourselves with some other investors, and we farmed it all. We had a team of 20 people on the ag side, and they went up and down the state. And then the little bug showed up, the psyllid, and it had a disease, and that disease spread into the citrus trees, and it's citrus greening disease, and that caused the trees to start losing yield, becoming non-productive, and eventually they die off. And we saw that in 2015 and said, "Ooh, this is going to be a challenge. We're going to need to either raise more money to get through this challenge, or, what are we going to do?" We at the same time had a minority investor that wanted out. Their 5-year window was up, and so we went out to the market to replace that investor and get more money in the business, and wound up realizing that, hey, it was better just to sell the company, and we had a lot better offers. We didn't really have anybody that wanted to take a minority stake, and so we sold the company. We sold it to Dean Foods, which at the time was the largest dairy in the country. They had 17,000 employees, 70 plus manufacturing facilities around the country, and they were 8 billion with a B, publicly traded company on NASDAQ. And then over 2 years, they had way too much debt, and milk was declining, and it declined, too fast for them to close the plants, and they ran out of cash, and so they filed bankruptcy. So literally an $8 billion company went bankrupt. And we then bought the company back at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, May of 2020. They filed bankruptcy in November of 2019. And by May of 2020, I had round up some industry friends and investors, and we bought it back. And so here we are, Uncle Matt's 2.0 since 2020. It's been almost 5 years now, coming up in May. So really amazing. Let's see, we're on track to more than triple the company. Is that right? Yeah,
Wow.
triple the company by the end of this year. So we've had a wild ride. We've had quite the turn of events, and it's been, just really amazing. Blessed to have a great team and company, and a lot of awesome customers.
So what do you do when you sell your company that's your life's work? Do you, go on to another project? Do you hit the golf
Yeah,
course? What
yeah.
did you do?
I mean, I could play a lot of golf in Florida. That's what they're known for down here. But I'm really not a big golfer. I prefer to like swim and bike and get out on the lake. But I stayed on. They asked me to stay on. My wife and I to stay on the company and help guide it. So we had a 3-year employment agreement. We didn't have any earnout. We sold the company 100%. So luckily we didn't have an earnout because we would earn nothing when it went bankrupt. So I also wanted to make sure what we had worked so hard for over those years that we were a good steward, and we would hand it off to them and give them a good roadmap to be a good steward and let the brand, live on in the future. And so I had a 3-year window with them, and so did my wife, and we were 2 years in when the bankruptcy happened. So it was, we were close to the company. We knew the ins and outs of it because we were operating it. We were doing fine within Dean Foods. We were actually a shining little star in there, but they unfortunately just couldn't get out of the way of their own debt and their problems. But they were good people. They had a lot of integrity. They were honest. They were hardworking. They were just stuck in a spot where milk was rapidly declining due to plant-based alternatives, and they had too many big assets that were relying upon volume of milk going through there, and they just couldn't shut them down quick enough. And Walmart was one of their largest customers, and Walmart was like 2 billion of the eight. And Walmart opened up their own dairy and started taking a good chunk of that business away.
So did they like make you like a consultant? Was that kind of like your role? Were you just
No, I was still an employee. I was a Dean Foods employee. Matter of fact, I still have my badge. It was the only company I've ever worked for besides being self-employed. And
wow?
I had a badge. When I'd go out there once a month to Dallas, where the headquarters were, I would, clock in and I would answer. I was part of the top 40 leadership in the company because I ran the little juice segment of it. And so I would meet with the CEO once a month when I'd fly out to Dallas, and I'd meet with the chief sales officer and the ops and supply teams. And I kind of saw it from within of the how a company goes bankrupt. It was really sad to see, and it wasn't for lack of effort. They just couldn't turn the ship to avoid the iceberg.
So what was different between Uncle Max 1.0 and 2.0? How did you turn everything around?
So we caught it at the right time with COVID. Orange juice and vitamin C just spiked. It became on trend again. And so a category that was kind of flat and declining suddenly started growing, double digits. And then organic on top of that was even more. So we've averaged growth over 20% a year. So it was for us a nice shot in the arm on top of the growth that we already had. We took some of the relationships we had with Dean Foods on a larger scale, and that helped springboard us out of there with we had a couple key broker accounts that were working with Dean and brought us in, and then it was really easy for us to plug into them nationwide. And so they quickly took advantage of the orange juice market being hot and COVID and vitamin C. We also launched a product called Ultimate Immune, and that was orange juice blended with elderberry, boosted the vitamin C up to 300%, and added zinc and vitamin D. And so, C, D, and zinc was kind of the covinator, and people just really, really liked it. It became our number two selling item. We call it Ultimate Immune. We also had another item called Ultimate Defense. It has pineapple and ginger with orange juice and probiotics and turmeric. And so that one has a lot of good anti-inflammatory and health properties. So we really just turned our focus to being a better for you beverage company. We took the sugar out of our lemonades, and we reduced that down and just added functional ingredients, and then really leaned in on the COVID and vitamin C trend.
Well, in addition to the pulp-free version, I'm also a big fan of Ultimate Immune. So,
It's
I,
delicious. The purple juice. People love the purple juice.
yeah, no, I'm a big fan. Again, I all I had to do was have the pulp-free orange juice, and it was so good that
Mm.
I just wanted to try more. And I personally feel like you guys are really on to something because I mean, yeah, it's one thing to have organic on the label, and that's really great. I know that
Right,
was something that appealed to me, but I also don't like drinking or eating anything that's like too sugary, too
right,
salty. I feel like
right.
the Uncle Max products just get it right. It's just got a great taste.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, between my wife and I, we do all of our own formulating. She's a great chef, and I'm good with beverages, and so we've got a good little combo there. She has a good palate, and so do I, and she's got a great eye with moms and family and kids. And then I have two young kids. So between the four of us, it's a perfect little, taste panel to come up with stuff that, isn't too sweet, isn't too sour, isn't, I mean, just it hits a variety of palates. The one thing about us is we have to taste good. I mean, I just won't launch anything if I don't think it has a taste profile that is delicious and that people will crave and want to have. And then, of course, it has to be healthy and organic.
Well, I'll tell you what, I crave some of these products, believe it or not.
Uh-uh.
And I guess if that's something you're striving for, then it's working. So
Well, hey, if you looked at my fridge, I've got at any time at my house, I have at least six different items. I crave a lot of our stuff. I think I definitely am our number one customer. Okay, and it shows. But a lot of it, actually, your body, when you're having those cravings, your body is actually telling you on some of those that, hey, I need that. Those are it's nutrient dense stuff. Orange juice with elderberry, orange juice with turmeric and probiotics. Those are nutrient dense things that a lot of people are on just the typical, standard American diet, the sad diet. Too many carbs, too many bad ingredients in their preservatives, too much sugar, not enough healthy fats, and so their body doesn't get good nutrient dense food. And a lot of people, when they take a glass of our stuff, I mean, it's kind of like a body awakening of, wow, what was that? I mean, I have people that tell me, hey, that turmeric really helps. I have, I have arthritis, and I don't take as much aspirin anymore that's in your product. So thank you for that. I mean, we just have testimonial after testimonial, people that are, happy with the functionality and the flavor.
well, I'm in my mid 40s and I don't have a whole lot of aches and pains, so maybe I have you to thank for that.
Well, I'll take it. I'll say thank you very much.
Well, what does the future look like now that you're back
Mm.
behind the wheel? You've been back for a few years, you're
Yep.
having success. What's next?
We continue to innovate. I push ourselves. We're not just going to be known for an orange juice company, as great as that is, and as much as that's our flagship and we love it. Um, I love beverages, and I love, I'm a food is medicine guy. So I'm always looking at, what else can I put in a beverage? What else is healthy and nutritious and delicious? My personal goal is, can I live to be 100? I'm 53, so I'm more than halfway there. So, longevity is something for me. Between exercise and eating right, those are big things. And so beverage is a big part. So you won't see me come out with junk. I'm not going to put high fructose corn syrup. I'm not going to launch a soda with 65 grams of sugar and tell you, hey, this is, just try it. I'm not going to do that. So some of the latest things we've done, just more functional. We've also got into teas. So now we brew tea, and I'm a tea drinker and a juice drinker. My wife is a coffee drinker and juice, and she's also likes tea. But brewing tea is fun. I'm a big green tea, black tea, and now we've got into yerba mate and hibiscus teas. So those are fun. Some functionalities around our hibiscus we just launched. It's got cranberry and cherry juice, tart cherry juice, brewed with rose hips. Rose hips are really rich in antioxidants and vitamin C. And you combine that with hibiscus, and they have great properties for cardiovascular. And we lightly sweeten it with agave, so it's not overly sweet, and it's low sugar, low glycemic. The other thing, the yerba mate tea. Yerba mate is a strand from Brazil, southern, like Argentina and Brazil. It's known for its natural antioxidants and properties around just alert, focus. And so it's a really nice one. We sweeten that lightly with wildflower honey, organic wildflower honey. So yeah, just that's what's next for us. Just more about functionality, more about putting organic items every day in your life that taste great and are good for you.
I was hoping as you were talking that you would mention green tea. 'Cause I'm a huge green tea fan. So
Yes.
if you
Yeah,
come up with something that's very tasty and has green tea in it, I'll be the first in line,
you
basically.
got it. We definitely have a green tea in the pipeline. So look for that probably this time next year. We'll be launching a green tea with something.
Oh man, that is good news for me. I can't wait for that. So, hey, if I like your green tea variant enough, I can maybe stop getting that Dunkin' Donuts refresher every day. 'Cause that is green tea, and it really wakes me up. But I don't necessarily want to go and get like a refresher every day, you know? So that
Yeah.
that becomes a little costly.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about how people can find your products and how they can find you, maybe even work with
Yep.
you, whether it's a podcast or whatever, however else they can collaborate.
Sure. We're on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn, Uncle Matt's Organic. If you go to unclemattorganic.com, so www.unclemattorganic or Uncle Matt's, excuse me, unclemats.com, you will see us there. We have a store locator, so just click on that, put in your zip code, and it'll tell you in your zip code how you can buy us. It'll list all the products in the stores nearby. If for some reason we're not in a store that you like, or we don't have a product in that store, you can also order us direct online. It will cost more money because of the factor of shipping juice overnight to you that's perishable, but we can get it to you anywhere in the US, whether direct overnight or through a local supermarket.
Fantastic. Well, again, my advice to everybody, if you see Uncle Matt's anywhere, pick it up because I am a huge fan. I discovered them when I moved to Florida 3 years ago, and it has been a mainstay in my house ever since and will continue to be that. And I, sir, Matt McLean, thank you. You are the founder and chief uncle at Uncle Matt's Organic. Thank you for being on Mark My Words today. This was awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks again for the opportunity to tell my story. And A heartfelt thanks for your business, man.
Yeah, anytime. Hey, I'll uh I'll be back for more.
Awesome. We'll keep making it.
Yes, yeah, don't ever stop. Keep it going. Pass it on to that next generation. I'll be there.
Awesome, Mark. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all for listening. Again, this was Matt McLean. He is the founder and chief uncle at Uncle Matt's Organic. I'm Mark Schmidt, your host at Mark My Words. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to go on a journey with me into entrepreneurship and life on Mark My Words. If you would like to learn more about me and the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt or connect with me on Instagram at Nimrod79. Video episodes of Mark My Words, as well as other content, can also be found on the Mark My Words YouTube page. Entrepreneurship can be quite the roller coaster ride. It can be a bit isolating and intimidating, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's meet here next time at the crossroads on another episode of Mark My Words.